Tonight, 35 suspected human traffickers arrested for trafficking over 200 individuals who were lured into Ghana with the promise of better life in the country.
Victims were lured into the country by the suspects ostensibly to give them lucrative jobs in Ghana. Unfortunately, when they came to Ghana, since there are no lucrative jobs existing, then they took them hostages and then they confined them at the Oyerifa estates, and then they were forced to go into cyber crimes and cyber crime related activities.
We'll tell you much more about this particular operation and tell you what the IOCO executive director has been planning together with the partners to get this particular issue arrested in Ghana. Here on Top Story, brought to you by Telecel, connecting energies and holding insecticide spray and coil. Enjoy a holy sleep. Well, the Economic and Organized Crime Office, IOCO, has arrested 35 suspected human traffickers in a major operation targeting a syndicate accused of luring and exploiting over 200 individuals. The victims, mostly foreigners and from vulnerable backgrounds, were reportedly housed in Oyarifa under false promises of a better life and employment opportunities in Ghana. Acting Executive Director of IOCO, Abdul Bashiru, says the suspect operated a well-coordinated trafficking network that preyed on victims from various regions, including neighboring West African countries. The victims were allegedly deceived with offers of well-paying jobs, education, and improved living conditions. Listen to the Acting Executive Director of IOCO.
The operation was successfully, and 219 people were arrested at Kunsak Estates in Oyerifa. The suspects were lured into the country, the victims were lured into the country by the suspects ostensibly to give them lucrative jobs in Ghana. Unfortunately, when they came to Ghana, since there are no lucrative jobs existing, then they took them hostages and then they confined them at the Oyerifa estates, and then they were forced to go into cyber crimes and cyber crime related activities. A number of laptops, personal effects, internet facilities, food stuff, and other things were retrieved from them. Together with the Ghana Police Service and then the Army, they were brought to the Economic and Organized Crime Office, and then we have subjected them to some screening. The essence of the screening is to separate the victims from the suspects, to even separate the juveniles from the adults. And then we also want to know what type of criminal activities they are involved in. And whilst the screening was going on, the Nigerian High Commission visited us, and then he met with the victims and the suspects, and then he admonished them to cooperate with the office. At the moment, the screening is still going on, and then we are thinking that come what may, by tomorrow, we should be able to complete with the screening, and then bearing in unforeseen circumstances, it should be possible for us to link or maybe make arrangements to send the victims back to Nigeria to connect with their relatives. I think for purposes of the operation, the planning and everything, our counterpart with the CID, we had met at National Security, we planned together, we executed the exercise together. Indeed, going forward, the Economic and Organized Crime Office and that of the CID, we have mapped out strategies that the two of us, that is the CID and then IOCO, we should work more closely than before. And then this is just the beginning of one of the steps or one of the projects that we have embarked together. As we speak now, maybe Madam Lydia will talk about it. Similar operations are taking place somewhere, but we are trying to unite or join the operations together for one purpose so that we can join resources, do a thorough investigations, and then share resources to reconnect the victims with their relatives. So I'll just pause so that Madam Lydia will add one or two words, and then we will send you to meet the victims, and then maybe we take it from there. Thank you so much for coming.
So that's the acting executive director of EOCO there, providing, the background to this whole thing. But he's been giving more details with regards to this particular operation that has led to this particular arrest. Listen.
Number of trafficked victims and suspects. The operation was successfully, and 219 people were arrested at Kunsak Estates in Oyerifa. The suspects were lured into the country, the victims were lured into the country by the suspects ostensibly to give them lucrative jobs in Ghana. Unfortunately, when they came to Ghana, since there are no lucrative jobs existing, then they took them hostages, and then they confined them at the Oyerifa estates, and then they were forced to go into cyber crimes and cyber crime related activities. A number of laptops, personal effects, internet facilities, food stuff, and other things were retrieved from them. Together with the Ghana Police Service and then the Army, they were brought to the Economic and Organized Crime Office, and then we have subjected them to some screening. The essence of the screening is to separate the victims from the suspects, to even separate the juveniles from the adults. And then we also want to know what type of criminal activities they are involved in. And whilst the screening was going on, the Nigerian High Commission visited us, and then he met with the victims and the suspects, and then he admonished them to cooperate with the office. At the moment, the screening is still going on, and then we are thinking that come what may, by tomorrow, we should be able to complete with the screening, and then
This is Top Story, brought to you by Telecel and Holy Insecticide Spray and Coil. Let's take you to where this particular, presser happened, where details were given. My colleague Kenneth Jesse has been there for us and joins me on the telephone lines now. Kenneth, what more can you tell us about this particular bust?
Well, Brace, when you come to the Yoko headquarters, you see more than 200 people scattered there. They're being screened, being offered food. These are the people the Yoko boss was speaking about, where they engaged in a swoop at Oyarifa Estate and arrested them. And he's been given a breakdown of the people. About 11 of them are aged 17 or below, and then you have about 7 of them being women, and then 212 of them are men. And if you see them, though, Brace, you can see that they have been in dire conditions, most of them looking very pale and very thin. I spoke to one of them who said that he was lured with the promise of a better life in Ghana. He's from Nigeria. When he came, he was told that he's going to get a better life. He's been indoors for the past 1 year, been confined to that particular place, not been allowed to go anywhere, and is offered just 1 meal per day. And this sentiment is shared across by all the people, almost all of them who are there. A few of them, though, look quite healthy. And then the Yoko boss also said that most of them are foreigners, but there are few of them who are also Kenyans. So they are processing them, they're screening them. I mean, they have some NGOs there who are also looking at the situation. And of course, I quizzed him whether or not there's been a habit of them not prosecuting foreigners. We've heard the Interior Minister recently say that people who engage in galamsey who are not from Ghana should be sent back to where they come from. I asked him, is that going to be the case since most of these suspects we're told are foreigners? And he said that they're taking the case one at a time. So that one, they will address the press when the time comes. But the headquarters of Yoko is dotted with over 200 people who have been trafficked to Ghana.
I mean, details of these countries where they are coming from are being provided, right?
Yes, we have a majority of them coming from Nigeria. Some are coming from Niger, Burkina Faso. Within the West African sub-region, really, is where most of them are coming from. But looking at the composition, you can see the majority of them are coming from a neighboring Nigeria, and it's understandable because they are one of the few countries in West Africa who, like Ghana, also speak English. So it becomes a bit, easier for them to come to a country which speaks a language that they understand, and then get better opportunities or get offered better opportunities for them. But the Yoko boss also did indicate that what they found out was that they were engaging in cyber crime. Cyber crime as in they were doing internet fraud, because when they seized all those equipment at the place, they seized computers and all that, which sought to suggest that that is what they had been recruited to do.
Well, earlier this week there was similar bust in Subri Forest Reserve, where we understand a community had sprung up there, majority of whom were girls who had been trafficked into the country. Did it have any relations to do with this particular one?
The Yoko boss said no, it didn't have any relation with this one, but he did indicate that the 7 women who were part of this 219 people could possibly have been trafficked here to engage in prostitution. But with the isolated case that you mentioned, there is no linkage as of now that it has anything to do with this. But this is also the biggest swoop that they've had. This is the biggest single swoop that they've had, that they've arrested over 200 people, which includes the victims and the suspects in this human trafficking scandal. And as you rightly mentioned, they've been collaborating with the CID, the Ghana Police Service, and all that to ensure that these victims are properly screened, because most of them do not have documentation. So it's going to take a bit of time for them to really know where this one is from, whether they are from Ghana or from outside Ghana, and see if they can send them back to their countries of origin. But as we speak now, he also mentioned that they have been collaborating with the Nigerian High Commission in Ghana, because I mentioned earlier that most of these victims are from Nigeria. So they are collaborating with the Nigerian High Commission in Ghana to try and see if they can send back the Nigerians who are amongst them. And then, of course, going forward, they'll be collaborating with the embassies and high commissions of the various countries that these victims are coming from.
Okay, grateful to you. That's my colleague Kenneth Jesse. But joining me on the phone lines now is the acting executive director of IOCO, Abdul Bashiru. Grateful to you, sir, for joining us here. Now, from the people you've arrested, does it include the people we understand are brought into the country to engage in, prostitution in this country?
Hello?
Mr. Bashiru?
Yes.
I wanted to understand whether your intel is pointing to the fact that this could possibly be part of the syndicate to bring in women to engage in prostitution in Ghana.
Not exactly, because the number of women involved are quite few. I think the women are 7. So 7 out of 219, you can conclude that the women were brought for sex purposes.
So what is this pointing to? That we have about 200 people trafficked into Ghana?
Normally, the traffickers will lure their unsuspecting suspects or victims with some prospects of jobs or some sense of security or education. So once these people fall into it, then they succeed in bringing them to Ghana or other places where they want to carry out such enterprises. So from what we have gathered so far, many of them are into this cyber crime and cyber crime related. Indeed, from what we gathered, they are more or less into this romance scams, and then some of them to using the same medium to lure other unsuspecting victims to come and join them.
But so why is it so easy for these people to get into the country? don't we have measures at the borderlines where we could probably get these issues arrested even before they become entrenched in Ghana?
Many of them use unapproved routes because from the screening, it's clear that many of them don't have any document with them. And ideally, somebody traveling through our borders, at least a person would have gone through 1 or 2 checks, and then many of these issues will be detected. Maybe we just don't know, but it could also be that either no checks were done, or maybe there could be some compromises along the way.
Do we know how widespread this is in Ghana?
It is quite widespread. I think this is about our 4th major operation that we have done.
This year?
And our counterparts, the Ghana Police Service CID, have also done similar exercises.
Is it this year and throughout Ghana?
Yes.
The 4 major exercises you've done, is it this year alone?
No, not this year alone.
Okay. So what measures are we putting in place to try and arrest this situation?
To the extent that people in other places will want greener pastures, we may just resort to maybe public education and sensitization in both their home countries and then in Ghana in particular. So when this issue came up, we contacted the Nigerian High Commission here. They have come and then they have explained a lot of things to them, that there is no greener pasture anywhere, even in the advanced countries. And they even admonished them about some social intervention policies that the current Nigerian government has embarked on. And then we think that if the people are well sensitized and educated, especially the youth, to understand that there is no greener pasture anywhere and that their destiny is in their hands, and that with some guidance and then maybe the support of the state, then they can make meaningful life in their home countries, I think it will help. In Ghana here too, then as we embark on this exercise with Ghana Police Service and the national security, if we are able to sustain it, and then also create awareness in particular that any property owner that let out a property to search criminals to undertake criminal activities, as we have just established, the person is likely to lose the property if we are harsh on them. After all, that is in the commission of crimes, anybody who aided and abetted a crime, whether with a vehicle, a house, or anything, is as guilty as the one who committed the offense. So if people start losing their assets, properties that they have let out for prostitution, cybercrime, among other things, if they start losing their properties, we think that it will send signals that people will not want to lose their properties, or people will not want to be seen to be committing crimes. But I must also emphasize that IOCO, we have started some public education and sensitization. We think that going forward, this other particular aspect or area should be one of the areas that we should sensitize the public on. On cybercrime, you will recall that the National Crime Agency of UK, they have partnered us, and then we launched a anti-cyber crime campaign, and then we try to educate the public. We just think that once we have started, if we are able to sustain it, maybe it will minimize the influence or the effects of such people into the country.
Is Ghana becoming a fertile ground for these crimes to fester, and that's why they are coming into this country to do what they do?
I wouldn't be able to say so, but during the interviews that we do conduct involving suspects, the issues that come up are that in Ghana, our internet is quite stable. Then our electricity is also quite reliable. And that when they are arrested to our issues with respect to fair trial, respect for people's fundamental human rights are higher than maybe many of the places that the suspects are arrested. So it's like in Ghana, every offense or every crime is bailable. And then the moment somebody is detained for more than 48 hours, you see lawyers and other people coming. So the combination of these factors suggests that criminals will prefer Ghana to other places where they think that maybe there may be some amount of abuses of their fundamental human rights. That is not to say that maybe Ghana is more developed or advanced in terms of ICT, internet, and then electricity than Nigeria. But this is just what during the course of our interviews or investigations, some of them suggested.
Okay, all right. Please stay with me. Let me bring in Farouk Al-Wahab. He is an international diplomatic consultant to look at the what impact this could have on our diplomatic relations. Wahab, I'm grateful to you for joining us here. Now, we know that some countries have been blacklisted by other countries, European and American countries, for these cybercrime activities. How can we, Ghana, handle this so that we don't get to the level where we'll be blacklisted for activities that are not caused by our indigenes, but by our foreign brothers and sisters?
Good evening, and then hello to your cherished listeners. Yes, every country has this kind of difficulties or problems ongoing on the whole sub-region, West Africa. For that matter, Ghana becoming a hub, and we've been blacklisted. We've been blacklisted before, or noted to be a cybercrime destination in West Africa. Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and then Nigeria, of course, predominantly in the Central African Republic was Cameroon, and some countries in Africa are notable of this kind of crimes. But indeed, the softness of it is the fact that it's not today that Ghana established even the cybercrime unit of the Ghana Police Service. We have it for the last 10 years. We should rather ask how many people have either been arrested, prosecuted, jailed over cybercrime. Virtually none. The reason being that we should ask of our police system, the prosecution system, and then the judiciary system, the court, and then the end point of the cases when the cybercrime or the offenders are being, the perpetrators are being arrested. Out of that, that is giving a kind of a green light. Out of that, that is actually amplifying the increasing of the cybercrime activists moving from other parts of West Africa or descending down to Ghana. Because in La Cote d'Ivoire, where somebody is arrested, where most Nigerians were arrested, for instance, instantly they take them to Yapugon. The Cote d'Ivoire court system does not allow the human rights, and then we should blame ourselves that when there is an issue, our lawyers, quickly, they will come in. The human rights, it will come in. The sheriffs will come in. The 48 hours, which my brother rightly said, is applicable. And for that matter, they are charged and bailed. The other thing is adjournment. Who is a complainant? No complainant. The case is dismissed. This had been the system which is ongoing, thereby making everybody within the ECOWAS region, of course, light, and then these are some of the illustrations or the considerations. Nevertheless, it's the softness of people having easy access and easy way to be bailed out or go out. It is not yesterday. Over the last 15, 20 years. But I also want to differ by saying that, yes, our brothers, we should not be concentrating that our brothers from the other region, the ECOWAS sub-region, it is not true. Ghanaians now, if ECOWAS member nations and nationals are here, certainly Ghanaians are more than them. They came to teach them. They came to bring them up to that kind of things that we're not used to. At this point, one can confirm validly that the Ghanaians are more. Certainly, we are more. This is our country. We are more than them. So they come and have friendship with these boys, or they identify their hideouts. And indeed, there are Ghanaians who are also called masters, that they hire accommodation in the name of guardian. He made mention of the landlords, and they will lose their properties. It is, you and I know that it is not possible. Because under a Ghanaian law, normal laws, even when there's a judgment to take possession of somebody's property, even in drugs-related cases, it will not happen today, not tomorrow, not the next year.
So how can we deal with it then?
Dealing with it has to do with, one, immigration has not taken into consideration of knowing how many and how people do come in. We have the ECOWAS protocols of right to live, right of movement, permits to live, and then permits to work, etc. But then it is also very normal that in modern day that we have scanning system, etc. People traveling through the country, through our borders, whichever means. Well, when they are arrested or when they are entering into the country, right to stay is 3 months for ECOWAS member country, which is 90 days. After the expiration, if you go to countries like even Zambia, etc., the moment you enter in, if even it's a southern state, South African country, member nation, they take your data having entered. After the 3 months, they know or they start looking for you. Botswana, you can't do that. They will fish you out. Namibia, you can't do that. They will fish you out. How well is the immigration? That is the bottom line.
But Yoko boss just told us that some of them come through unapproved routes. That was a challenge.
It is like that. Don't forget that you and I, Ghanaians have entered UK through unapproved routes. Ghanaians entered Germany unapproved route. Ghanaians entered Switzerland unapproved route. So that is not a news. It happens everywhere. Ghanaians are in America all way without boarding a flight through Mexico. They enter. It is also unapproved route. Does that one validify or validate their living? Answer is no. Therefore, you have to regularize. If they've entered through unapproved route, there are places where we know. Ghana Immigration know. Ghana Police Service know. These guys don't live in single rooms. They live in 20, 30, 40. Where are the areas? Kaswa, Medina. Ghana Police Service is on top of all this. They know where they hide out. They know where they are. So if we continue to protect them and we sit back on Joy News like I'm doing and complain, whereas we know the hideout of these people, whereas we know the judicial system is not favoring us, then what are we talking about? What about the Ghanaians that are with them? We know where they are. So it is a matter of the country, our preparedness. The question is, do we want to solve this problem? Iyoko, how many commissions, how many security agencies that we do have, including the MIs, the military intelligence, the CIDs, all of them, they collaborate. They know how to fight. How do you going to fight over this? Fight this issue? They know.
Okay, I'm grateful to you for the insight you've shared on the show today. But let me just wrap up with you, Mr. Bashiru. He mentions places that you these people are probably you are aware. Are you aware of all of these places, and what are you doing to get them to deal with them? Mr. Bashiru, I'm trying to find out from you if you are aware of all of these places that Al Wahab mentions.
You see, it's easy to mention that maybe human trafficking or hoarding or hostage is taking place in Kaswa or wherever. When you get to Kaswa, which part of Kaswa are you going? So it's easy to presume that, or maybe with some basis to say that because of high numbers of certain populations in certain areas, there is a possibility that certain type of crimes are taking place there. I'm not disputing that. But the point is that if you even go to Kaswa, if you don't have intel or you don't have direct information that point to a particular place, you can't just go and be searching into people's homes to see whether they are harboring maybe victims of cyber crimes or prostitution, among other things.
All right.
So to that extent, yes, he has mentioned them, but you and I, if we go to Kaswa today, which aspect or which house in Kaswa are we going?
Okay, all right. So you don't know of these hideouts?
Yes, so basically it all requires some intelligence or some information.
Okay, all right. I'm grateful to you.
Like we are just saying, yes, I think the way forward is for us to sensitize the landlords and even sensitize the neighbors.
I'm grateful to you. Abdul Bashir is the executive director of IOCO, and this has been Top Story. Up next is Newsnight.
And tonight, nationwide opioids crackdown. We are live in the northern region, described as Ghana's opioids epicenter, where a joint police and narcotics control commission operation has destroyed over 500,000 cedis worth of opioids and other contraband.
Some as high as 225, 250 and the likes. And these are all unregistered products. Yes, most often are not.
Also tonight, the opposition MPP describes President Mahama's first 100 days in office as, quote, a total failure.
And I can argue to you they won the election on balance based on the promise that they were going to do some 24 economy. They were chanting all around 1333, given that one job, 3 people, 3 shifts they were going to do. Where is that?
We assess what has been achieved in the last 100 days and hear from the government. Also tonight, we tell you why the MPP is questioning President Mahama's latest efforts to bring Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger back into the ECOWAS fold, with the president's latest invitation to the military leaders.
I don't know what kind of report the president gave the chairman of the union, being the Nigerian president, President Tinubu. But I think that.
Well, health experts also tonight, researchers also demand urgent action from government to tackle air pollution, including removing polluting vehicles from the streets.
And that's why we are calling that we should have a national policy.
And either get rid of them by not giving them roadworthy, or we need to tax them heavily.
In business.
And government rejects suggestions that Ghana will lose out on attracting fresh foreign direct investment over how it has handled the review of Goldfield's Diamond Man lease.
And it's also tell you about Ghana's long-distance runner William Aponsa, who has now set a new national record in 10,000 meters at the Brian Clay Invitational in the USA.
All that plus your views and comments here on Newsnight 05511119997. Details after this.
See, I beg, fix me go betete Ghana. No gari, no oil, no plantain, just beans then eggs.
Hey, brah, that be dangerous combination, no.
Problem no day. I feel handle am.
For Telecel, with the Bob say everybody gets what they like. That be why Made For Me bundles day. Based on your usage, if you get your own data and call packages, falla! Made For Me bundles like the way you want them. That *530# then buy Made For Me bundles today.
Telecel. Connecting energies.
Couldn't sleep at night. Mosquitoes will be whining my ears, bugging me all night long. Till I got a remedy. Now I'll be spraying them away with holy insecticide spray. Me I go spray them away with holy insecticide spray. When I sleep, I sleep. With holy insecticide spray.
Holy mosquito coil, holy multi-purpose insecticide spray. Ghana Kron Kron. For bulk purchase, call 0302-681582. This advert is FDA approved.
It's alive, your Newsnight. It's on Joy 99.7 FM. Ghana recently attracted international headlines when the BBC blew the lid on the northern region's opioids crisis. Tonight, state security agencies have swung into action, targeting the region described as Ghana's opioids epicenter. In the last few hours, the police, in collaboration with the Narcotics Control Commission and other stakeholders, have destroyed opioids, marijuana, and other contraband worth more than 500,000 cedis. Earlier this month, a total of 230 cartons of opioids were also destroyed after it was intercepted at the Tema port. My colleague Martina Bugri is live on the ground in the northern region tonight and joins us on the line. Martina, what more do we know about today's operation to destroy the opioids?
So these are drugs that were seized by the police during their operations in the area, and these cases were sent to court. After the court verdict, some of them were fined, and if they fail to pay the fine, they'll be jailed. Now, the court ordered that after the case was done, they needed to have these things bent. So today, the police and its allied forces joined forces this morning at the Malayan landfill site where they bent these goods that we are talking about.
And give us a sense of the extent of the problem in the northern region, described as the epicenter. We obviously saw the international headlines recently.
Now it's a major issue, a research conducted by the UDS shows that 58% of the region's youth have done drugs before, and they are normally these tramadol, this red they call, and marijuana. Now, the situation is so serious that a task force was proposed and then sanctioned by the government. They have done it in communities. They move from community to community, and they have confiscated quite substantial these drugs that we are talking about. You have incidents where somebody will be walking and say you can't find his head. You are talking and say you can't find your head. You have somebody driving or riding a tricycle, tax, and then start misbehaving. There are a lot of incidents. You have find people walking and sleeping. These stories are very common in the region. That's just how I extend it. It's not the region's capital. But all the districts you visit, you have stories of tramadol use, which people are worried about.
You talk about tramadol. You've been talking to the Food and Drugs Authority today on this suppression and many others. What have they been telling you?
Now, they're saying that, and what it does to you is that, and in some instances, some people die even using drugs. Now you get high, you begin to misbehave. It sometimes affects your entire system. This is about 250 grams, and the limit that has been officially sanctioned is 10. So you can see the variation very high. And this is what people are putting into their system. We have people collapsing because they have taken tramadol. We have people collapsing, some even dying because of these drugs used in the area.
Tramadol products are supposed to be registered. They are pharmaceutical products. They are supposed to be registered before we issue market authorization. There are grams that are acceptable that you can register, and in Ghana the acceptable limits are 100 mg milligrams. And as you can see, observe, we have some as high as 225, 250 and the likes, and these are all unregistered products. Yes, most often are not. These are products that were seized from retailers, not wholesalers. We can always speak to addiction, and then of course, if you take beyond the recommended dosage, the effects are enormous, and it can result in seizures, drowsiness. There are a lot, and of course it depends on the consumer or the user.
Thankfully, we can speak to the Deputy Director General of the Narcotics Control Commission, Alexander Chumberima. Their commission was part of today's operation to burn and destroy those opioids. Joins us on the line right now, Alexander. I'm grateful that you could join me. We talk about 500,000 cedis worth of opioids that you destroyed. Give us specifics about some of the drugs that you had to destroy today.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. As you rightly indicated, this is a 225 and 250 opioid, and as it's sometimes called, they are drugs that are not permitted, or as the FDA will say, they've not registered it. But people, for whatever reason, get to have them, and they hide them in their pharmacies and other things and selling them to these our young men and women. And unfortunately, it's causing a serious havoc on their lives, yet they keep on going after it. So what NACOC intends or has been doing in the last few months or days is to be chasing or looking out for people who are trading in these things and getting them arrested, and even those who are importing them. So if you, as you indicated earlier, some few weeks ago, we were at the port where we had seized a 40-feet container which was full of this 225 and 250 tabs. Then, according to them, they said it was transiting from Ghana to Niger. But we seized it because we will not allow our borders to be used for illicit, traffic of said drugs. Alongside, we will also not permit anybody to pretend to be taking it away, but before you realize it, to find its way back into the country. Yeah.
And this very operation that led to the seizure of the items you've just destroyed, where are you finding these? Are these simply in the markets, in people's homes, in particular hideouts?
Well, some are with people who are having pharmacies across the country. But not too long ago, we were in Western North region to arrest an operator and then an owner of a pharmacy in the Western North region who were also trading in this.
You mean licensed pharmacies, or these are illegal pharmacies set up to sell drugs?
Oh, no, they are well, I would say they are registered ones or certified ones. Yes. Funny enough, because they know that it's illegal, they don't even display it in their counters. They hide it in some boxes or some bags within the premises, and then those who want them, when they get there or when they approach them, they bring it out and sell it to them. That's what they do. But one dangerous thing also is that when you pick most of these tablets, on the face of it, you reckon that it's only the so-called country that they said they are bringing it from that you find it on. So you can, for instance, you can find made in India, just by example, made in India. But you will not see which particular company or manufacturer in India manufactured that particular tablet.
I mean, considering that you have pharmacies licensed to operate legally, and yet you're doing this and hiding it, the agencies that license must be involved in this. Do they know about what is happening across the country? And to what extent are they involved in dealing with violators?
Well, I think when it comes to the pharmacies, I know that the institution that regulates them also go around to check their people alongside the FDA to do that. Not too long ago, I think just about last week or so, if I'm right, there was an exercise, a joint exercise between FDA and NACOC, and I think customs also. We did it in the Tema enclave, that is Tema, Ashama, and those areas, and some part of Medina. We had an operation there to chase people who were having it in their pharmacies, alongside even those who don't even operate pharmacies or drugstores or whatever name you may call it. Yet they have it in their kiosks and other things. People do that. They have it in their kiosks, and some even in the pubs or as they normally call it, the local beer bars or whatever that you may call. And they have it there. They hide it there and sell it to these young men and women. But all those people, we look out for them. One thing is that we have a lot of intel in some of the regions, but for them, I can't tell you now. But I know that in the next few days, you'll be hearing more of these stories because we are going to strike on all of them.
And this is a nationwide crackdown, correct?
Yes, please.
And
yes, please.
As we've seen, many describe, just talking to Martina, Northern region seems to be the epicenter. Some have described this as that. Why is that? Because where is it coming from? Is it coming through the south, through the ports? And if so, why is it traveling all the way to the north? What is it in the north that is making it an epicenter?
Okay, so I think that with the north, for instance, the earlier instance that I mentioned, which is the port one that I said, they said it was going to Niger. Definitely, if you go through Tamale or the northern sector, let me just say that for a fact that if you go to the northern sector to Niger, but human beings, they will find a way of sometimes even diverting some of those things back into the country through the unapproved routes that they normally use. That is the challenge that we are having. There are several unapproved routes, and those are the routes that they normally use. Use in transporting or bringing in this kind of illicit drugs.
I see, and you've promised that this is going to continue across the country, and you've made arrests already. Are we seeing prosecutions?
Oh yes, anybody that we arrest, prosecution is the next.
What about the kingpins, those who are actually financing this and bringing them into the country?
Okay, so the thing is, once investigation leads to you being a financier, we are definitely going to arrest you. So you saw what I told you earlier on regarding the Western North one. We didn't just arrest the operator, the one who was in the shop selling it. We went ahead to even arrest the owner of the shop. That's how we do it. We don't just arrest those who are just trading it. We look out for even the supplier, among other things. And once we find them, we arrest them also and then prosecute them.
I'm grateful. Thank you very much. Alexander Chumberima, the Deputy Director General of the Narcotics Control Commission, NARCOC. I want you to join me with your thoughts. If you live in the northern region, let me hear from you. 055-11-11997 on the day when a joint security operation have destroyed some 500,000 cedis worth of opioids there, described as the opioid center of Ghana. Live your news night on Joy 99.7 FM. You may have missed it, but I can tell you the John Mahama administration is marking its 101 days in office. And as you know, it is a milestone to assess what has been achieved in the last 100 days. And already there are questions being raised by the opposition New Patriotic Party. It was an ambitious agenda for his 120 days in office to transform Ghana. And today marks exactly 101 days since he was sworn in, John Mahama I'm talking about, with just 20 days to go until the deadline of his own 120-day social contract. The spotlight is now firmly on delivery. Some of the major policies the president had tasked himself to execute includes the LI that we know would allow for students to have first-year students to get free go to school free in the tertiary level, at least for the first year, a scrapping of the e-levy, COVID-19 levies as well, admission levy, training of more than 1 million youth in coding. There's a million youth in coding program, which was recently launched out of the 25 promises made in the contract. Joy News is checking this and can reveal only 8 have been fully fulfilled, with the rest either in progress or yet to begin. I want to bring in my colleague, Papania Shale. We've been digging into this, assessing this over the last 100 days, and he joins me in the studio with more. What's the current status of President John Mahama's 100-day social contract?
Well, Evans, rightly as you mentioned, out of the 25 key promises made in this 120-day social contract, we know that 8, representing 32%, have so far been fully completed. 9 from our checks are currently in progress, and 8 are yet to be started. And in all, that makes it around 68% of the promises are still outstanding, with just 19 days to go.
What are some of the promises that have already been fulfilled fully?
Well, Evans, so the government, we know, has successfully held national dialogues on both the economy and then education, part of the promises that they made. It has also introduced the free tertiary education for persons with disability. And we know that, at least from the budget side, government's policy, they have made allocation to make sure that there's no fee stress for level 100s. That allocation has been made. But as to whether the students' fees have been paid or have been, those who already paid have been reversed back to them, we'll find out shortly, probably from government. But we know that there's some allocation have been made at the budget level for that. Again, also, the controversial e-levy and betting tax and emissions tax have all been scrapped. Just less than a month ago, all of these have been done. Another key promise delivered is allocation of funds to the Women's Development Bank.
And which promises are yet to be tackled?
Well, some of the pledges that remain untouched include the establishment of a code of conduct for government officials, a review of taxes on imported vehicles and industrial or agricultural equipment, and the creation of an accelerated export development council. Other unfulfilled promises include a ban on political appointees acquiring state assets, as well as plans to review the Customs Act to allow salvaged vehicles into the country, Evans.
But there's some of these promises that they've begun yet to fully fulfill. It's, say, describe them as in progress.
Yeah. So we know, at least, the Mahama administration has begun work on forming what it calls the leanest and most efficient government. The groundwork has also been laid for the 24-hour economy initiative. Additionally, forensic audits have been launched into allegations of financial mismanagement under the previous administration. We started definitely with the Orals Committee. The Attorney General has taken some of those up urgently and is sending some of them to court pretty shortly. So, Evans, among some of the things that are in progress, these are some of the things that they have started but not fully completed.
Thank you very much. We would focus on the education sector pretty shortly, because that also saw a major promise made as far as the implementation of a few policies are concerned. But tonight we're hearing from the main opposition, New Patriotic Party. They've already delivered their verdict. They say it is a total failure. Let me bring in the Director of Communications for the party, Richard Ihagba, joins us on the telephone line right now. Richard, can you justify to me why you say that the past 100 days have been a total failure?
All right. Thank you very much, and good evening to your listeners. How else can you describe it? It's a total failure when you have indicated to people for purposes of obtaining their votes, and you've got the votes, and you have 120 days to deliver in exchange or in compensation to the votes that you have gotten, you have not delivered. They went ahead and were looking for the low-hanging fruits. Yesterday, hurriedly, they launched the 1 million coders program and all of that. It's a total abysmal failure. We knew this all along.
I mean, you say it's a total abysmal failure. Let's take the example you just cited, the 1 million coders program. One of the things that we did was to check if indeed there is any real substantive basis to launch the program. And to do that, you need to check the platform that was created to take registrations and create the path to the training. We went through the entire thing. My team actually attempted to register. It was flawless to the point where they actually sent us an aptitude test that you took, and you now get shortlisted to join. And they've done all this. The minister has been there for just 60 days. How do you describe that as a total failure?
No, I'm not describing the coders program as total failure. I'm talking about the social contract which was supposed to be delivered. We're expecting 100% delivery because they didn't say they were going to deliver 50%, 60%, 70%. They said they would deliver those in 120 days.
If you put it in the context of 120 days, they are 100 days, right? You're assessing 100 days. They have 20 more days to go, and they can do way more. Close to 120 days.
Absolutely. Okay. I mean, they can argue that. If that's what they're arguing, that in 20 days they will do the more than 70% that is outstanding. Fair enough, they can do that. But I'm just saying that where I sit, and the rate at which they are moving, I don't see them delivering near 50% of that, and that is a failure in of itself. But you see, more seriously, in respect of some of the items that they needed to actually do and convince people, even if they don't complete all of them, somebody will say that they made a deliberate effort. What's this matter to do with Galamsey? A real low-hanging fruit. You promised that you were going to ban mining in our forests. Today, Galamsey in our country has gotten worse. Okay, it's gotten worse. And
how do you measure that?
And the singular.
What's the evidence to say it's worse? Worse than you left it. I mean, what's the evidence to say is worse than you left it?
But talk to your colleague Erastus. Talk to Dr. Kedasigwe, who are in the trenches all the time, engaged in this matter.
Yeah, what they tell you is that Galamsey is still happening. I'm just questioning when you say it's worse. That's a degree.
But Evans,
how do you measure that degree?
Evans, what measure were you using under MPP to gauge that Galamsey is bad? What measure were you using?
Galamsey is bad then. It's bad now.
The same measure you were using the waters. Are the waters clear? Is that was that the case?
So turbidity,
are people still in our forest, devastating the forest in search of gold? Is that the case?
People are still devastating the forest. That's factual. The water is still turbid, but you have to be a bit more scientific to tell us, well, what's the turbidity level right now compared to, say, when you left office? Then we can, begin to understand why you say it's worse. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, Evans, if there's nothing scientific about this conversation, they have stated clearly in the social contract that he will ban mining in our forest. The only way you can achieve that is when you repeal the LI. You cannot achieve that by any other means. So if you haven't done that, you haven't achieved your promise, or you haven't fulfilled your promise. So it's as simple as that. There's nothing scientific, complicated, or spiritual about it. It's straightforward, black and white. You haven't done it. So if they have done it, we will see it. They called for a state of emergency when they were in opposition. Where is it? They were in power. They haven't done it. And the thing is getting worse. Only you, if you haven't seen it, but it is all over the place, Galamsey has taken a turn for the worse. So the point is that, quite simply, in 101 days, the NDC has failed to deliver on their 120 days. Now, you can make a reasonable argument that they have 19 days. Fair enough, we can wait, give them 19 days and see what the wonders they can do. But I have always known, and we have always cautioned Ghanaians that, look, these guys, we've seen them before. Okay, they are not a new element. They are known quantities. They have failed before, okay, and they are going to fail. This business about 24-hour economy, Evans, where is 24-hour economy? Where is it?
Well, you look at the way to assess what you're doing and the level of success in the last 100 days as it relates to some of their big flagship promises is, are they making allocations to these? Have they found a way to fund it? If you look at the budget, for example, 1.4 billion for agriculture for economic transformation agenda, budgeted for, they provided it there. 51.3 million a seed fund for establishment of women's development fund. They've ticked that box. 300 million national apprenticeship program, take that box. 100 million for a Jumeirah program, take that box. The national coders program, 100 million, take that box. You talk about 100 million has again be allocated for the payment of the monthly allowance to all assembly members, take that box. That clearly it's a government that appears to have a plan.
So, Evan, out of the 26 or so items in the social contract, they've completed 8, my check. Okay, that even though partially, but they have attempted in real terms 8 of them. Okay, the remaining ones have not been done. So the assessment is straightforward. The marking scheme is clear. There is no way to go and mention anything that it is the way to look at it. It's very clear. It's a binary situation. It's either they have achieved it or they haven't. And the evidence is that they have. Okay, now it doesn't preclude them from continuing to do it in the next 4 years, which is their mandate. But what we have before us, what they committed themselves to, is 1 to deliver, but they haven't delivered. So let's be clear and say that. Then we can talk about other things. So let's not excuse for them.
Let's talk about the other things. One of the key ones that we can look at in the education sector. Government hoping to implement this 121 days free tertiary fees for level 100 students. And we know the government allocated significant amounts of money to this. Listen to Harun Idris. I want to bring in, subsequent to that, Clement Park, his deputy, on the question of where we are with implementation.
President Mahama and the NDC promised free tuition for students from level 100 who would undertake normal programs in the various public universities of our country, including what he has said expanded to private tertiary institutions. The number, a population for which the country will require about 345 million Ghana cedis. Of the population of students who enter tertiary institutions, that is what the state will be required to do. We intend to provide that money to the affected universities, at least one to make refund to all those who have already paid those fees. So we intend to mobilize with the Ministry of Finance some additional financing to cater for the population of students. It will be in the region of 125,000 as I look at it. And we'll provide 375 million Ghana cedis to support that. So every student who has paid will have a refund of his money.
Dr. Clement Park is the Deputy Education Minister, joins us on the line right now. Your boss just said some additional funding you're looking to be released from the Finance Minister. I thought this was already settled in the budget. Clarify that.
Well, let me say good evening to you and to indicate that I am currently in my constituency. As you know, we are in the processes of confirming nominees of the president to become our district chief executives. Today was the turn of Busa South. So I've been in my constituency. Thankfully, that exercise has been successfully concluded. Even I think the minister was very clear in his pronouncement. The government policy to support students in the tertiary institutions is twofold. One is to take up the academic fee of, if you like, regular students. The other is to pay the fee for students with disability. What I know, which is what the minister has said, is that that commitment is being fulfilled. I say it's being fulfilled because as at the time students were reporting to school. The John Dramani Mahama-led NDC government had not yet presented a budget. It had not been approved. Consequently, we had no money available to address the issue that we have said we're going to address. It was within that context that the Honorable Minister for Education made the earlier statement indicating that those students who would have paid, because at the time government didn't have the resources to pay for them in advance, would get reimbursed. Now what I know is this: because the same students are going to be continuing, rather than the fiscal reimbursement, going forward as they go into their second year, what should have come to them to defray their academic fee for the first year will become a credit, which would then mean that as they go to second year, they wouldn't have to pay because they had already paid for their first year.
So they'll not be physically refunded as was initially communicated.
That cannot be the case because the logistics of it, and even to ensure that we avoid any impropriety, the monies will never go to students directly. It is going to go to the universities on the basis of calculations in terms of the numbers and the amounts having been arrived at between GTEC, the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, which is mandated to superintend over tertiary education in Ghana, and the Student Loan Trust. So it will be directly remitted to the universities or tertiary institutions on behalf of the students.
I mean, but let's talk about the allocation very briefly. And I still have with me on the line the Director of Communications on the line from the NDC, MPP. I mean, it's one thing to allocate the funds. It's one thing to disburse it. How much of what was allocated in the budget do you have in your account now to fully implement this particular promise?
Well, we had the minister indicate very clearly that we expect to spend not less than $340 million thereabout, million cedis thereabout on this exercise. And so that is the baseline that we are working from.
Is that money in your account?
It could be more, it could be less, depending on the enrollments.
Is that money in your
account? But that is the expectation.
Is that money in your account as we speak?
Well, I have no reason to believe that money is not in our account.
But you also don't have a reason or evidence to suggest that it is there.
The allocation has been made, and we expect that the resources will be available to undertake the commitment.
That
we know for a fact.
Another promise that you put your reputations to execute in 120 days. Of course, we are counting 100 days now. Is it commence the distribution of free sanitary pads to female students in primary and secondary schools. Where are you with that?
In fact, the minister had made public that I believe around the 21st or so, there is going to be the launch of the free sanitary pad to students in secondary and junior high schools. So in probably just in about a week or less, there should be the formal launch of this policy as well.
Did you say this launch will happen on the 21st of April?
Yes, I'll cross-check because I'm in my constituency. I don't have access to my notes.
I mean, that will be a holiday. It's Easter Monday.
Yeah, so obviously it can be on Easter Monday then.
And let's look at the big picture, though. And so talking about your 120-day social contract and, marking 100 days in office, so far you've already managed to achieve, your government managed to achieve 32% out of the list of promises that you promised to execute in 125 days. You are a deputy education minister, so if you were a student in one of your classrooms, 32% would be a fail.
Well, I disagree, because the time given for us to write the exam has not elapsed. So it will be premature to assign a grade to me when the time given is not up. I have not finished responding to my questions yet. We gave 120 days. It is not 120 days yet.
Richard, but that's your answer to the question of what they've done so far.
No problem. I think that I can agree with that argument. The only problem is that my senior brother knows it's not a realistic proposition he's making, that in 19 days they will achieve the remaining 68 or so percent, which is something that I guess I would like for them to prove me wrong. The truth is that, Evans, we want them to succeed. I want His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to succeed, except that we believe that they approached the 2024 campaign in a grand way, deceiving Ghanaians, saying everything, all manner of things. And the most egregious one is this 24-hour economy. They know they can't do it. They will not be able to do it. They lied about it. Now they said now they have to put some policy framework and all of that. Even the e-levy thing, they demonized it. They told us that COVID is gone many years ago. So what are we doing still having COVID levy on our tax books? They will remove it. They haven't removed it. It's there. It's there. They're just going around explaining and rationalizing things. So in 19 days, if my senior brother believes that they will be able to achieve standing 68%, then I wish him well. But
Okay, Richard, thank you very much. And Dr. Clement Park, all the best with what you're doing in your constituency also. I want to hear from you. You've witnessed the administration's works in the last 100 days. What's your own verdict on it, with 19 days more for them to exhaust the period for implementing 25 key promises in 120 days? Your verdict here on Newsnight. I'll share with the rest of the world pretty shortly. George Yaffe is joining me right now with business. Hello, George.
Hi, Evans. And coming up in business, some market analysts expect Citi's current stability to be sustained in the coming months, following a strong reserve position of the Bank of Ghana. And government rejects suggestions that Ghana could lose out on attracting fresh foreign direct investment over how it has handled the Goldfields Diamond Mine lease issue. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials, Sinter's tanks, and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal.
Get ready for MTN Stands in Worship 2025. It's bigger and better this year. You don't want to miss great performances from great artists like Tego Sisters, Moses Oke, Hannah Mafo, Nasi, Empress Gifty, Bethel Revival Choir, MTN Viva Voices, and a host of other spirit-filled artists. Join us on Easter Sunday, the 20th of April at the Grand Arena at 6 p.m. for an unforgettable night of heavenly worship. Gospel legends and fresh voices will take you on a musical journey through the decades, blending classic hits with modern favorites. Dress up and show up in your all-white attire and be prepared for a heavenly night. Let's come together to celebrate God's goodness at MTN Stands in Worship 2025. It will be a heaven on earth experience. This event is strictly by invitation. MTN.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHF, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Hey, Dini Yamsa. And you stay soft concentrate fabric softener. I was such it move. You're sending this say, but you hear my tina watch it. New Yanets now watch it. No, be a baby, someone some demoni in us say. Dini Yamsa. Fair quiet, yes, in Beer Association Ontario. Use Stay Soft and New Yanets now watch it. Nani boss to tap from cry. A fabric softener. And you near say, sir. Choose to Stay Soft. No, so say, you know. FDID a garden cratu yatu.
You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, government is rejecting suggestions that Ghana could lose out on attracting fresh foreign investment into the mining sector. It follows concerns about how it has handled the Goldfields Daman mine issue. Isaac Tando is the Deputy Chief Executive of the Minerals Commission, has been speaking on PM Express Business Edition, which airs tonight at 9 p.m.
What we are saying is, we support foreign investment, but some of these agreements cannot be in perpetuity. It cannot be forever. If you've been given a lease for 30 years and you've worked 30 years, it cannot be business as usual. Those 30 years should continue. It's about time that we realize some value within the whole chain.
Understand that some would argue that who should we blame here, because these agreements were signed by Ghanaians as a counter agent to these agreements. And if I take the Minerals Commission as an institution and not you, I mean, these agreements were signed with the advice coming from the Commission. So if today we are raising concerns about some of these mineral agreements, I mean, some will say, who do we blame?
So I wouldn't say we should blame anybody. I mean, time changes.
Isaac Tando is the Deputy Chief Executive of the Minerals Commission, speaking on PM Express Business Edition, which airs tonight at 9 p.m. on Joy News and all our social media platforms as well. Let's still stay on the sector, because the African Center for Energy Policy, ASAP, has advised government to halt the takeover of the Daman mine belonging to Goldfields, which we expected that government should be taken over from tomorrow, that is April 18th. Let's hear from the Executive Director of ASAP, Ben Boachi, who has been speaking at a news conference in Accra today.
By examining the laws and the information before us, we know that the state's decision, that's the decision of the government, to take over the mine after April 18th, which is tomorrow, 2025, is premature. ASAP calls for a halt in the operations to expropriate the mine tomorrow, and the indication that tomorrow is not only Christ that will be crucified, but the mining industry risks crucifixion as well. The government needs to exercise restraint, renew dialogue, and pursue a legally guided resolution that protects the interests of both the state and the investors.
Executive Director of the African Center for Energy Policy, Ben Boachi, speaking at a news conference in Accra today, raising serious objection over government's plan to take over the Daman mine that is currently being managed by Goldfields. And from tomorrow, we understand the government should be taking over that mine. The current stability of the Ghana cedi should be sustained in the coming months. Now, these are the views of some market analysts and bank treasurers that Joy Business has been engaging. Now, it follows revelations by the IMF that Ghana's international reserves has even exceeded the program completion target even before May 2026. Meanwhile, research lead with GCB Bank Courage, but he has been sharing his thoughts on how the current trend can be sustained going forward.
The reason the cedi is stable, quarter one typically is associated with depreciation pressures. We haven't seen that this year. Yes, there has been some depreciation, but not as pronounced. And we are seeing the level of intervention on the market, the return of confidence in the market. The speculative pressures are not as strong. And those are the things you want to see. Investors want to be sure that when I want to exit your economy, I have enough effect to do so. Traders need to be assured that there is enough supply to get in. Probably the next leg is when you begin to get portfolio investors flow back into the market, and then the liquidity sources are not just Bank of Ghana's auctions alone or through the other maybe remittances channels alone, but there are also a myriad of other options through the investment channel where FDIs are coming in, portfolio investments are coming in. That's why we need to stay the course. But I believe that the reserve accumulation, the pace we are doing it, and how it's resonating with the market is a big part of why the cedi has been stable in the first quarter.
Research lead at GCB Bank, Courage Boti. Now, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Iweala, has been pushing Ghana and other African countries to explore trading among themselves as well as raising revenue locally. Now, it follows the current global tariff hike, which is threatening some economies around the world, including Ghana. Dr. Iweala noted that this could be the best way to go ahead in trying to insulate African economies, including Ghana, against these global challenges.
The external environment has changed and is more adverse. Aid is drying up and trade is becoming more politicized. So there needs to be a focus on raising domestic resources, attracting domestic, regional and foreign investments, on faster and greater trade integration within the continent, such that intra-Africa trade is lifted well beyond the current 16%. To give an example, Africa imports an estimated $7 billion worth of textiles. There is no reason why Lesotho's $240 million worth cannot be absorbed within the continent. Africa needs to look at how it trades more within Africa and also with the rest of the world. Now, let me end with lessons. What lessons are we learning, or at least am I learning? We're learning from what is happening. The first one is over-dependence. One of the clearest lessons from the COVID-19 crisis was the importance of diversifying sources of supply.
Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, speaking at the news conference in Geneva, Switzerland. And that's all for business. Before we go, let's turn our attention to the stock market. If you were a shareholder of Enterprise Group, well, the value of each share that you are holding today was up by 3 pesos to close at 2 Ghana cedis, 50 pesos. If you also have invested on the Ghana Stock Exchange from the beginning of the year to now, your returns are now more than 23%. And tonight on PM Express Evans, you're talking the mining sector. We'll be engaging the Deputy Chief Executive of the Minerals Commission, Isaac Andrews Tando. Issues about goldfields, issues about government pusher, the impact on FDIs, and also what will be the fate of workers going forward after Friday events.
Thank you very much. Let's do sports now.
Yes, Evans, we'll start with
this
some...
is the Arsenal man. You should say something to him.
Yes. No, the question is, do you think you can win the Champions League after?
Let's take each game at a time. I think it's too early days yet to say that because you've been in Real Madrid. Yes, let's cross that lap and let's see.
Okay, that's fair. Just keeping you. But congratulations. I think it was a victory against Madrid. Congratulations. Let's do some athletics now. And Ghana's William Mensah has set a new national record in the men's 10,000 meters, shattering the previous record by 2 minutes. The 25-year-old Texas A&M student athlete set the new record of 7 minutes 47 1:08.93 seconds at the Brian Clay Invitational earlier today, barely a year after setting the previous record. And Mensah, with that time, set a new NCAA a record after finishing fourth in the same event last year. Well, Mensah currently holds the NCAA cross-country individual national title, winning in consecutive years, and Mensah will be hoping to make the mark in order to be part of Ghana's team for the World Athletics Championships. That's one Ghanaian athlete who's making Ghana proud. To the Ghana Under-20 team now, and they are getting ready for the Under-20 African Cup of Nations tournament to be played in Egypt. They've been training at the Accra Sports Stadium for the past weeks now ahead of the tournament, which is set to start on the 27th of this month. The head coach is Desmond Ofei, and he's been speaking about the team's readiness for the competition.
It's been quite tough, but luckily, like I said, we started in February with the local boys. We assessed over 78 players, combination of Premier and Division 1, and the remaining players, additional maybe 25 players that came from lower divisions and also academy. Try to give the boys that went to Togo an opportunity to reclaim their spots. And in the end, I think we trickled down to how the squad look like now is almost 50-50.
Desmond Ofei. Well, Man United is playing Lyon tonight, and guess what? Onana is returning to the starting lineup after being dropped over the week, and Amorim says he's going to be playing. Not sure how you feel about that, but first leg and they're 2-2, right?
Yeah.
Can you make it?
And we struggle at Old Trafford.
You did.
We go away, so
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, let's see how you fare. We'll see how you fare.
Thank you, Ms. Bao. Now, the old and new markets in Bolgatanga are facing growing fire risk, raising concerns among traders and shoppers there. Now, though the last major blaze at the old market happened over a decade ago, a recent fire near the new market just 4 months back has sparked renewed fears. As part of our Breaking the Fire Cycle series, Joy News' Upper East regional correspondent Abesoy reports from Bolgatanga.
The Upper East regional capital, Bolgatanga, has two main markets, the old market and the new market. The Bolgatanga markets have been quite fortunate to escape fire disasters for a long time now. However, the Bolgatanga markets are not completely safe from the danger of fire disasters. During a visit by Joy News, it was revealed that open burning of plastic and other waste is a common practice in both markets due to the lack of proper waste management systems. Linda Akupa is a leader of the Market Women's Association.
At times we just take the rust and just burn it there. So after the burning, you can't stand after the burning to go. You can just start and burn the thing, walking away.
The fire risks are compounded by the congestion in these markets caused by unauthorized structures.
We as the market women, we have our place. Everybody's supposed to sit inside the shop. And the thing is not big like that.
It is not right for us to light fires anywhere at all within the market, but some do that. You might finish cooking or even smoking and fail to properly put out the fire. And if the wind blows and ignites a fire during the night when no one is here, you can imagine what would happen.
The Ghana National Fire Service in the Upper East region, led by Regional Commander Richard Absafo Sego, acknowledges these ongoing risks in the Bolgatanga markets.
Some of the major hazards that we normally identify are naked fires, that the market women mostly cook in the markets before they cruise, and then illegal connections.
The commander said there were teams present within both markets to educate traders on fire safety and serve as first responders.
Routinely, we meet the market leaders to discuss about the challenges that they are facing and the service as a whole. We've also earmarked all the markets as fire stations. We man there 24/7.
Joy News found that the team's operational bases in both markets are located within incomplete and poorly maintained structures.
They are forming a task force. This time when we come, whatever we can do for us not to experience the fire outbreaks, we are going to do it.
As the Bolgatanga markets remain a vital hub for commerce, the safety of traders and customers hangs in the balance. The call for a comprehensive waste management system and stricter enforcement of market regulations is urgent to prevent potential fire outbreaks in these busy markets. Reporting for Joy News, Albert Sori, Bolgatanga.
A few of your messages on our WhatsApp console now. And then Kwama Boateng in Ablukuma says the NDC's first 100 days in government have been nothing but lawlessness, doomsday, and abuse of power. The government adjusted public sector workers' salaries by just 10%, but slapped them with a whopping 14.75% electricity tariffs and a 4.02% water tariff. Resetting agenda indeed. Abdul Hamid in Tamale says the issue of tramadol abuse in Tamale involves some prominent people in the town. The drug enters the northern region through Togo and Burkina Faso borders, and even some health workers are complicit in the issue. Jeffrey in Ablukuma says, how on earth do you even give attention to the opposition who have absolutely nothing to offer Ghanaians? In what position are they to rate the government's performance? Samin Kumasi says, Richard Ahiagba just wanted his voice to be heard on Joy FM. At what level did they fight the Galamsey menace when they were in power? And Atan Gubiodoko in Bolga Main Lorry Park says the illicit drugs commonly used by the youth in the Upper East Regional Capital, including Timakin 120 mg and Tramakin 250 mg. The shells of these products can be found at the lorry station and the drinking spots, which are located very close to basic school parks. Those are your messages on our WhatsApp console. Now, health experts, researchers, and clean air advocates are demanding urgent action to end what they call a silent public health crisis at a maiden public lecture organized by the Ghana Thoracic Society on air pollution, the neglected killer. They call for a national clean air policy and strict enforcement of environmental laws. My colleague, Michael Ashali, has more.
Air pollution, the silent killer, is taking a deadly toll on Ghana. Researchers say it claims more than 28,000 lives annually. That's one person every 19 minutes. And the numbers are climbing. Children are among the hardest hit. A recent study by pediatric pulmonologist Dr. Sandokwatin Owusu found that exposure to harmful pollutants peaks during school commutes.
And we realized that for most of the children, during the time they are on their way to school, so during commuting to school, they had higher levels of exposure. And then for another group, the children on the school compound, so there was one particular school where the children had a lot of exposures during the day.
In Ghana, the situation is dire. Our average air quality is 12 times worse than WHO's recommended limits. Desmond Appiah is the country lead of Clean Air Fund.
Air pollution is now the #1 environmental challenge in the world and in Ghana, and there are a number of reports attesting to that. So it is because it is not visible most of the time, it's easy for us to push it to the back burner.
One of the hardest culprits, Ghana's public transport system. The high-emitting, fuel-guzzling vehicles that line our roads. Clean Air Fund's Desmond Appiah says the gap must be fixed and quickly.
That's it for news tonight. Happy Easter.